So I figured that since I was an engineer, I'd have to talk about something related to tech instead of just random MGTOW stuff. At any rate, I'm into mechatronics and robotics, so I figured that sex bots was pretty much right on my alley. Now, a lot of MGTOWs have talked about getting through the uncanny valley through giving up and using masks, or making the robot obviously a robot, or by using VR, and I don't really have much to add there. I can guess the algorithm of how it would be done, but that isn't really interesting. Now, something I would like to get into would be machine learning. Now, let me explain it using the example of facial expressions. Say you have a sex bot with a face, and you're trying to get the sex bot to make a certain set of facial expressions that are similar to humans. So say the robot has a set of 10 servos, each of which can be in one of 180 degrees. That robot has 180 to the power of 10 possible positions. Now say that you want this robot to smile. You have two choices here. You can have a human program in the exact position that each of the servos is supposed to go to, and that's very labor intensive and the human will make mistakes. Or what you can do is you can videotape a woman very similar to the robot, or maybe you can design the robot after the woman, and you can tell the woman to smile, and you can have that on videotape. Then you take the robot, you tell it to calculate 100 random positions, and then the robot will make those positions. They're just completely random positions. They're not special in any way. They're just random positions for each of the servos. And you videotape the robot making those facial expressions. And then you run a correlation analysis. These correlation analyses are very simple. Basically, you measure how close two pictures are to one another, how similar they are. And after running this correlation analysis, say that you figure out of the 100 possible positions that 5 of them are very similar to the woman's actual facial positions. Or say that you simply take the top 5 most similar results. So that's the first day. You do 100 results. The first day you get 5 really similar results. Now, day 2 is a little bit different. Instead of taking 100 random results, what you do is you take 50 positions that are completely random. Just random again, randomly generated. And then 50 positions that are similar to, but not identical to, the 5 positions that got the best results from the previous day. So now you have 100 results, 50 of which are completely random, 50 of which are somewhat similar to what you know has had good results. Now say at the end of the second day, you figure out the 5 new best positions. And of these 5 best positions, say that 3 of them were from the 50 you did, 1 of them was from the best 5 of the one on the previous day, and 1 of them was from one of the new completely random tests. So now you have another set of 5. And you keep running simulations like this, and eventually the robot learns what positions of the servos are best to imitate the expression of the real-life woman without an engineer having to go in and actually calculate the position of every servo. The computer figures this out by themselves through a lot of brute force. Now I say days, but this is actually very generous. Now a robot can run a simulation in maybe 10 seconds because the computer is actually very fast at just doing repetitive things. So say that it takes 10 seconds to do a simulation and then process and everything. You can have 100 simulations done in 15 minutes. I'm just making estimates here. So basically you have the computer figure out the best positions by itself. Now that isn't very impressive because you have servos in fixed positions. Now maybe instead of having servos in fixed positions as you're designing this robot, what you can do is you can design a physics engine. And then you can tell a computer program, hey, I want you to create a virtual robot with between 2 to 10 servos. And these are the servos that you have to choose from. And here are the mounting points. Here are the possible mounting points. Or here are the possible range of mounting points. And then you have the computer randomly generate positions for servos. And then, after the computer randomly generates positions for servos, it can run the testing algorithm I described before to see how well these positions are able to imitate a real woman's facial expressions. So you can not just have the robot figure out what positions the servo should be in, but you can actually have the robot figure out exactly how many servos to have, which servos to have, and where to mount the servos for the best results, to be as realistic as possible to the real human analog. So that's one way. It requires immense amounts of computing power, but it is relatively labor unintensive. That's one way you could get really close to real human facial expressions and bridge the uncanny valley really quickly. And I'm sure this is something they've explored. Now, another thing I see the sex robot industry doing is piggybacking off Alexa or Google Voice. Because now if you want the most realistic voice, the best thing to do is just rely on the company with the biggest resources, rely on the project with the biggest resource going into it. So the first sex robot that has a realistic voice will probably have a voice very similar to Google Voice, or the tones will be very similar. And then the sex companies can modify the voice, however, but it will probably be off Alexa or Google Voice. And this would save the sex robot, and this would not only save the sex robot industry development costs to focus on other things, but also it means you get free development. You progress as Google is progressing, and you don't have to do anything yourself. So that's just an idea. You can also rely on Google's conversation algorithm and Amazon's conversation algorithm and all those things. Now, there is one final thing that I'd like to add, which I personally think is the most important, which is if you just want the sex robot to simulate sex, the sex robot is going to be able to do that. You can also hire a prostitute. It might also be interesting to have men form attachments to these sex robots, emotional attachments. Now, you might be like, a man isn't going to fall in love with a sex robot. Well, no, but the thing is, men fall in love with a lot of other things. Men fall in love with dogs, right? Not romantically, of course, but men form very strong connections with pets, particularly with dogs. And also men form connections with their tools, with their cars. A lot of men like their cars. So I was thinking about that. So I was like, why do men form connections in these ways? And I realized it's because these things are giving back. The dog is giving back by providing the man protection, company, and the car is giving back by the man being able to drive it around. Not only that, but with the car, the things that men are attached to cars the most are not simply just it being a good car. So like if you have a man who buys a car and just drives the car, he's not going to form a connection with the car. The people that really form connections with that car are people who customize their cars. So someone I know, he gets really nice cars. He leases a new car every 3 years, and he doesn't make any modifications to it. If he wants it fixed, he sends it to the car dealer. He doesn't really do anything to it. But people like myself, I buy a car. It's a used car. It's a beat up car. It has its own unique quirks and everything. And I personally fix it up. I pick very carefully what goes in it. I know exactly how it's broken because it's broken in a lot of different ways. These are all things that make me very attached to my own car. And it's a piece of shit car that I bought for super cheap. But it's still my car, and I love my car. So I was thinking, why don't we carry these things through to the sex robots? So if you have a sex robot that a man can't customize, then the man isn't really going to form a connection to it, even though that sex robot is giving back. But if you make it so that the man can customize this sex robot, then that means he's going to form a connection to it so much more easily. Because he knows that this is his robot, it has these quirks, it's actually broken in these ways, but I don't mind. Oh, it actually broke it that way, but I fixed it. And so the man knows the robot very well. It's customized, it's exactly the way he wants it. He needs to put work into it in order for him to build an attachment to it. Like I put work into my car, and men put work into raising their dogs, because I don't have a dog. But I'm pretty sure men do that. So this means the robot needs to be easily customizable. And this means third-party parts, it means third-party software, and it means third-party software for parts. Because ultimately, if you really want customization, you just need third-party, I think. We've learned that from the iPhone, from desktop computers, from cars, from guns. You just need third-party. Anything with third-party stuff, men will be able to form connections to. So one idea that I'm just going to throw out there is an open-source robot, an open-source sex robot. I think it's a bit too early for that, but that is the easiest way to make it super third-party. So if anyone knows any sex robot companies, they're going to try to make a monopoly on parts, which is going to be great for short-term sales because that means people are forced to go back to that company to buy parts. But men aren't going to be able to form connections to these robots unless they're able to customize it and customize it with third-party parts with all sorts of unique quirks. And even make the software open source, so if a man knows how to program or a man knows how to 3D print or machine parts, he'll be able to make custom parts with his own hand, and that will make the man form a connection to this robot so much stronger. At any rate, that's my 2 cents. If you want more ideas on technology stuff, let me know, and I'll try to add more technology stuff. And otherwise, cheers.